really pivotal. It explains the financial policy here at Smithtown Gospel Tabernacle. So, if you send out a letter, you will listen to the letter, put the church in there. You don't have them make the check out to you. You make it out to Smithtown Gospel Tabernacle. Now, the greatest invention I think God gave in this last days was those little stick-ons, you know? All right? Put that, have them put a stick-on with your name on their check so when they get it in, they'll know where to credit it to. Okay. Now, the other thing real quick with the application is that we've said this before. Here's the thing. There are many, many people out here in our church that won't be able to go on a trip. But they have a burden for the country you're going to, or they have a burden for that missionary that you're going to help, or they're just really want to get behind the project that you're doing. They can't go, but they'd like to help maybe financially. They'd like to help prayerfully, you know, that kind of thing. You want to get these folks on board. Okay, the way it's set up is that once we get this application finished today, and it doesn't have to be as perfect, and get there, Anna will take this in, enter it into the system, into the online giving system, okay? And what happens is when you pull up that trip, your name will be on there, but your name won't be there unless there's an application that's been completed, okay? Once it's in there, then people who see online and get to know you, it's like finding somebody on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, they'll see your name and they'll say, I want to give an X amount on it, and then the accounting department will direct that to there. So here's the thing. The longer you delay, the less opportunities you have for others because they may just take it and give it to someone else or to other areas. So that's basically why we're trying to get this done. But I want to go into the spiritual aspect of finances, and there's three. I've never been one for 7 points or 10 points or 3 P's or 3 A's, whatever, but it just worked out that way, the 3 P's, okay? The thing is, the first thing, and you're going to hear more about this, by the way, there's no class next week. The next class is going to be right after Easter, will be April 8th, and that's going to be on prayer and fasting. So we're going to have a lot of time in prayer. But the first thing that really comes to heart when you're dealing with finances is you're getting a heart for something, is what I love is Matthew 6:33. And I know you know all this verse. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and these things will be added unto you. Okay. The thing is, just the fact that you're here in this classroom is you've been seeking the Lord to be part of a trip. So you're getting that part down pat, okay? And the thing is, all these things will be added unto you, okay? And that includes finances. You know, as you're putting up, God's going to start speaking to people to do that. But you don't want to take it to the point where you just say, okay, I'm here, well, I guess the money's just going to roll in. It doesn't really usually work that way. This is where the next one comes in, is where you start to plan. And this is the part that I love from Luke 14:28 says, and he's talking about the builder. And he says, but when a builder begins to build, he goes and counts the cost. Now, if you look at one of these things, we've already figured that out. The short-term team, the vision board has figured out, if you look at your trip, they figured out your costs. So those are the costs, okay? Now, some of you may be independent contractors, you know, you may have the cost of the trip, but because you're taking time for work, you don't have vacation time because you work for yourself. So you're also going to figure in those costs as well for yourself, trying to figure those on that. But the next thing the person does is they start to plan what the costs are going to be and that kind of thing. So you've got that pretty much from this description. And there again, you can put this in your letter. Okay. The third part is what I call the prepare part. And this is where, you know, God really works in the Midwest. It comes from Proverbs 6, verse 8. And it's about, says, take a lesson from the ants. You know, they're very hard workers. They don't have any government. They go ahead. And of course, it's the same one. Use lazy bones, use sluggard, or whatever. But in other words, you've gotten the purpose already from Matthew 6:33 of seek ye first the kingdom. You're here. Okay? You're starting to count the costs, which we've done here. Okay? Well, that kind of thing. Now it's the planning. So you seek out opportunities. One of the things that I always appreciate about God is that if you ever look at anything that ever got done in the kingdom, it's because they were workers. They got things done and that kind of thing. They found creative ways. And here's the interesting thing. People love to get involved with people who are industrious, who are doing things and that type of thing, and getting things done. When you get out there and share your vision through your letter, or through talking to people that you work with, that kind of thing, people sometimes they see what your involvement is, you know, that you're not expecting anything. They want to get involved. So keep those things in mind, because these are really points that I think will help you focus that. You know, just say, God, open the doors for me. Like for me, I don't usually send letters out, and I think it's great that you do, you know, that kind of thing. I just pray, I say, Lord, I pray for overtime, I pray for extra hours. Sometimes my boss calls me up and says, hey, I need you to work on this project, I want to bring you in for a couple extra days. I say, oh Lord, I can put that on. Sometimes I make tips, I put that aside. That's one way, that's just something I like to do. Others send letters. Now, some of you can pay your own costs, and that's fine. But one of our great team leaders is Jason, who always says, even if you have your own money, still send a letter out, because it's money that you can use for the team for other projects that the team may need down the road. So that, I don't want to take anything away from Justin, but Justin's going to come up and share about the faith aspect of all this. Thank you.
So, if Pastor Rich was here and he's not, he would say too, this is week 3, to get those applications in, and also to have that $100 deposit down, which is what we're going to be working on later. But like John said, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the faith component of this, of mission trips, because it really involves a step out of our comfort zone. And I really want to leave a lot of time for the leaders to get their interviews done so you guys can finish your applications. So could I need a volunteer? Somebody could read Hebrews 11:1 for me? One of my favorite verses. Bless you. Anybody who's got it?
Want it in NIV or
Doesn't matter.
I have
I'll
it.
get it. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
I really like that verse because that really encapsulates what faith is all about, because you're believing or hoping for something, but you have no concrete, no tangible evidence that it's actually going to happen for you. And that's what our mission trips are about. We have about 7 trips going out. They all cost a lot of money, and for right now, I know for me, I don't have the money to go on the trip, but I'm believing God that He's going to prepare me, provide the finances for it. One of the examples, I was working on my notes last night, and I came up with 3 examples of faith in the Bible that relate to missions. And one of the first ones that I came up with was Joseph on his journey. And Joseph is often described as an example of waiting on God, given a promise, and waiting on God to fulfill that promise. Joseph had a dream, and he wasn't able to see the fruits of that dream until years later. But if you look closely at the story of Joseph, it's really a missionary journey. So we all know the story, how he had a dream, he was in his homeland, his brother sold him into slavery, went to Egypt. So I'm just going to throw it out there because I like to get everybody involved. In what way was Joseph's story similar to a missionary trip? Anybody?
You're just thrown out there.
Okay, so Lori said you're just thrown out there. Anybody else?
Went to a foreign land.
Exactly. You went into a foreign land. Now, with that, there's a bunch of different categories that can go with that. So Joseph was in Israel, sold into slavery. Go into a foreign land. He had to make the best out of a situation. He didn't speak the language. He had to get a job, work in Potiphar's house, didn't speak the language, whole different education system, different food, different laws, different customs, which is very similar to what we're all going to be experiencing when we go on our missionary trips. For example, in England, you're going to the UK, similar language. Same word might have a different meaning. We're going to Nepal. Totally different language. I don't think they're going to be speaking English. We're not going to be speaking Nepalese. Mexico, Guyana, Tanzania. They're all going to different places where you are the foreigner. We're going there to help people where it's their homeland. Another example of faith that I came up with was Sarah. And we often will credit Abraham for being the father of a nation, but Sarah doesn't often get enough credit for being the mother of a nation. Abraham, Sarah doesn't get a lot of credit in the Bible. She's mentioned, to being the wife of Abraham and everything, and we see the journey that Abraham had of